Peace to everybody out in the world. You know what I'm saying? You heard? Um, I wanted to get into Bill Clinton, but first, I heard people talking about executive orders and paperwork and information saying that they can be fabricated or whatever the case may be. While that might be true, how do we determine if something is real or not? Which I could go into the Hermetic principles. Everything actually goes back to the Hermetic principles, no matter what you're actually doing, right? But an executive order, legal definition of executive order, an order issued by a government executive on the basis of authorities specifically granted to the executive branch. So let's go to here. An executive order is a means of issuing federal directives in the United States used by the President of the United States that manages operations of the federal government. The legal or constitutional basis for executive orders for the legal or constitutional basis for executive orders has multiple sources. Article 2 of the United States Constitution gives the President broad executive and enforcement authority to use their discretion to determine how to enforce the laws or to otherwise manage the resources and staff of executive branch. The ability to make such orders is also based on express or implied act of Congress that delegate to the President some degree of discretionary power, delegated legislation. Okay. Basis in United States Constitution. The United States Constitution does not have a provision that explicitly permits the use of executive orders. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1 of the Constitution simply states the executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. Section 2 and 3 describe the various powers and duties of the President, including he shall take care that the laws be lawfully executed. Okay, now where do people get executive orders? White House. We So you go here and get the executive orders. You know. Sometimes we look at these things and we don't fully understand how these things work because they never taught us in school. If you go back to my previous videos, I explained that. They don't teach us how the government works. They don't teach us the difference between a republic government, a democratic government, a communist government, a socialist government, a theological theocracy. They don't teach you any of the differences in governmental principles. So a lot of us are just going off of our own understanding, and that's what they want. They want us to go off our own understanding. What him doing here, is this legal? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I know that Trump is very uh, astute and aware of what he's doing most of the time. Does that mean he won't fumble? Sure, he will. Nobody's perfect, and for some reason we have this idea that government and people that are in government are supposed to be perfect. I mean, it's utter ridiculous. They put this patina and this don't chip paint on Obama to the point where people can't even see the flaws that is permeating from his from this guy, right? This guy too, which I'm gonna get into this guy in a few minutes, but let's go to the payroll tax. Let's see. Subject: deferring payroll tax obligations in light of the ongoing COVID disaster by authority vested in the President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States. It hereby orders as follows: in 2019 novel coronavirus, the originated in the People's Republic of China, has caused significant, sudden, and unexpected disruption in America's economy. On March 13, 2020, I determined that the COVID pandemic is of sufficient severity and magnitude to warrant an emergency declaration under the Section 501(b) of Robert E. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act. So he letting them know, deferring certain payroll tax obligation. The Secretary of the Treasury is hereby directed to use his authority pursuant to this case on wages and compensation as applicable paid during the period of September 1st to 2020 through December 31st, subject to following conditions. The deferral shall be made available with respect to any employee the amount of which wage of compensation amount deferred. I'm just looking for calculated wages and compensation as applicable payable during any biweekly pay period generally is less than 4,000, calculated on a pre-tax basis or equivalent amount with respect to other pay periods. It's because, I'm going to read this because most people don't take the time to even understand what's going on. But we have these outrageous opinions, Excuse. So that's what you're trying to do, man. You're trying to put money in your pocket, and the Democrats is mad, Republicans is mad. I don't know. He even said why he's doing it and how he can do it. So let's get into this nutcase person I really can't stand people like this, but what can I do? You know what I'm saying? So let's play this, man.
First, I thank John Miles and the Lewis family.
Oh, let me get into this first before I because I feel like people they won't understand where I'm coming from by reading this. Right, when I'm reading this. This is 2 years ago. So this is what we're talking about here. Masonic and Hegelian. There's two. I went over this in another video. Go check that out. But there's two: duality. And some of these people are very proficient in only this. Some are in this. But you can be in both through symbolism, but depending on the energy you're putting out is what you're going to be in, because the symbols are in both, but depending on the energy that you're putting out, it determines if you're this or you're this. So let's look at his Hegelian speech.
And John's incomparable staff for.
And speaking like this is magic, because you're manipulating people into moving in the way that you want them to.
A chance to say a few words about a man I loved for a long time. I'm grateful, Pastor Warnock, to say it in Ebenezer, a holy place sanctified by both the faith and the works of those who have worshiped here. I thank my friend, Reverend Bernice King, who stood by my side and gave a fascinating sermon in one of the most challenging periods of my life. I thank President and Mrs. Bush, President Obama, Speaker Pelosi, thank you, and Representative Hoyer and Representative Clyburn, who I really thank for, with the stroke of a hand, ending an intra-family fight within our party, proving that peace is needed by everyone.
Hold on. Let's go back.
Ending an intra-family for, with the stroke of a hand, ending an intra-family fight within our party, proving that peace is needed by everyone. Madam Mayor, thank you. You have faced more than a fair share of challenges in these last few months, and you have faced them with candor and dignity and honor, and I thank you for your leadership. I must say, for a fellow that got his start speaking to chickens, John's gotten a pretty finely organized and orchestrated and deeply deserved send-off this last week. His homegoing has been something to behold. I think it's important let all of us who loved him remember that he was, after all, a human being.
So he's talking about himself. This is what Hegelian dialectic is taking your words and manipulating them to sound one way, but meaning something different. This is how energy works within the Hermetic principles. Everything is mind, so whatever you say is what is true and what the universe seeks to manifest or duplicate, so that what you say is true at all times.
A man, like all other humans, born with strengths that he made the most of when many don't.
So he's thinking about himself, and it's really nasty that they did it. He did it during this, but saying that, most people every man has strengths, and some fight their demons.
Born with weaknesses that he worked hard to beat down.
So what was this man's weakness? Think about it.
And many can't, but still a person. It made him more interesting.
Look how he's holding him here, and look at his face. That look like a face of fear to me. You know what I'm saying? Like he knows about this guy and who he is. Speculation on my end. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who these people are. You can only go off of what you see in the world today.
And it made him, in my mind, even greater. 20 years ago, we celebrated the 35th anniversary of the Selma March, and we walked together along with Coretta and many others from the movement who are no longer with us. We're grateful for Andy Young and Reverend Jackson and Diane Nash and many others who survive. But on that day, I got him to replay for me a story he told me when we first met back in the 1970s. And I said, I was just an aspiring whatever Southern politician and hadn't been elected governor, and he was already a legend. So I said, John, what's the closest you ever actually came to getting killed doing this?
Who asked that question to somebody? How close did you get to being killed? That's some old crazy shit.
And he said, well, once we were at a demonstration and I got knocked down on the ground and people were getting beat up pretty bad, and all of a sudden I looked up and there was a man holding a long, heavy piece of pipe, and he lifted it and was clearly going to bring it right down into my skull. And at the very last second, I turned my neck away, and then the crowd pushed him a little bit, and a couple of seconds later, I couldn't believe I was still alive.
To everybody, they say that they know that all these people are corrupt, that all these people have issues. Right? But we still put our energy into supporting these people that have surmounting and overwhelming deficiencies at running countries and running the world in the way that they want to. And that's all they're doing. They want to run everything how they want. They want you to be a slave. Right?
I think it's important to remember that. First, because he was a quick thinker. And secondly, because he was here on a mission that was bigger than personal ambition.
So what was John Lewis's mission that was bigger than personal ambition, right? Was it to protect and make sure that our people had homes, schools, farms, grocery stores, tech companies? Was that his mission? His personal mission? Was that his overall mission? What was it, and how does he know it? And we all don't have anything. You know, marching in the 60s, that's cool. Doing stuff in the 80s, that's cool. But what you was doing in the 90s and the early 2000s, you know?
Things like that sometimes just happen, but usually.
And what was the mission? Was it to protect the deep state, protect the cabal, protect the globalists? Was that the mission that was bigger than his ambition? Look at this. Got him perfectly here. Look at that. All right.
They don't. I think three things happened to John Lewis long before we met and became friends that made him who he was. First, the famous story of John at 4 with his cousins and siblings holding his aunt's hand, more than a dozen of them, running around, something that was more powerful than any instruction. The people that he knew had the same goal, say, well, we have to be careful how we say this because we're trying to get converts, not more adversaries.
So he's saying we're trying to get converts, because look at the political climate, right? They're calling these people, saying he's connected to really, really sick people. They have evidence. Remember, this came out the same week the information from that woman came out. So he's saying these things, saying we're trying to get converts. We're trying to get people into the street. We're trying to mobilize people to be on our side. We're trying to get people to understand that we don't want this person in the White House to dismantle our system that we took 100 years to build, and 4 years of Trump is destroying it. So this speech is to help us stay motivated to get people on our side, no matter how evil they are. This is my perspective of what they're telling us, or what they're saying.
Just 3 years later, he lost the leadership of SNCC to Stokely Carmichael.
Then he brought up Stokely. Stokely was exposing the Illuminati, the Boule, which, you know, from evidence from what's coming out now, a lot of these politicians and celebrities are part of this internal group that is keeping our people down and uplifting the globalist mission. And this is one of those people that was helping it. And he's talking about Stokely Carmichael because Stokely Carmichael was an issue to the globalist mission to take over.
Because he said, you know, I mean, it was a pretty good job for a guy that young and come from Troy, Alabama. It must have been painful to lose, but he showed as a young man, there are some things that you cannot do to hang on to a position, because if you do them, you won't be who you are anymore. And to a position, there are some things that you cannot do.
Some things you cannot do. Sounds like a veiled threat.
To hang on to a position, because if you do them, you won't be who you are anymore.
So you can't. He start off with Stokely Carmichael, nice saying there's certain things you can't do. Then he says, if you do them, you're not who you are. Like, oh, if you vote for Trump, you're not black. Sounds familiar?
And I say there were 2 or 3 years there where the movement went a little bit too far towards Stokely. But
See, this is the problem. As Moors and Israelites, black people, whatever you want to call yourself, African, whatever, I don't give a damn. Us thinking for ourselves, us understanding the world that we're in is an issue for these people. It's an issue. He literally just said it. The movement was going towards Stokely. We had to figure a way to stop it. That's part of the Hegelian dialectic. It's part of it. Black and white squares symbolize control through duality in the grand game of life, in all aspects. You see what I'm saying?
But in the end, John Lewis prevailed.
But in the end, go look up Stokely Carmichael and the stuff he was saying. Go look him up. I would play it, but I don't want to do too much right now.
We are here today because he had the kind of character he showed when he lost an election.
He had the character to do something that was for us, and we like that. And they clapping. Black people clapping. Look at this.
Then there was Bloody Sunday.
So, come on, man. He goes from that to then there was Bloody Sunday? That's how we moving? Huh? Then there was Bloody Sunday. That's why it's important to understand the enemies that you have. That's why it's important.
He figured he might get arrested. And this is really important, not to, for all the rhapsodic things we all believe about John Lewis. He had a really good mind, and he was always trying to figure out, how can I make the most of every single moment? So he's getting ready to march from Selma to Montgomery. He wants to get across the bridge. What do we remember? He cut quite a strange figure. He had a trench coat and a backpack.
So remember, he said, we're trying to get people on our side. We're trying to get, what did he say? What did he say? Converts, then enemies. I forgot what he said, but that's basically what he was talking about. And he about to give marching orders.
Now, young people probably think that's no big deal, but there weren't that many backpacks back then. And you never saw anybody in a trench coat looking halfway dressed up with a backpack. But John put an apple, an orange, a toothbrush, toothpaste in the backpack to take care of his body because he figured he would get arrested. And 2 books. One, a book by Richard Hofstadter on America's political tradition to feed his mind. And one, the autobiography of Thomas Merton, a Roman Catholic Trappist monk.
A pedophile.
Who was the son of itinerant artist.
I can't say he was a pedophile, but I can say that the Catholics do delve in those extracurricular activities that are along those lines. Not all.
Making an astonishing personal transformation. What's a young guy who's about to get his brains beat out and planning on going to prison taking that? I think he figured that if Thomas Merton could find his way and keep his faith and believe in the future, he, John Lewis, could too.
So it may look bleak on what we're doing with the riots, the protests, the bombing of stuff, the Wuhan virus, the media. It looks like we're not winning. But as long as you focus on the future and what we want, it will come to pass. So do as I tell you.
And so we honor our friend for his faith and for living his faith, which the scripture says is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen.
See?
John Lewis was a walking rebuke to people who thought, well, we ain't there yet and we've been working a long time. Isn't it time to bag it? He kept moving.
He's saying, don't give up. I know y'all trying to give up, but don't give up.
He hoped for and imagined and lived and worked and moved for his beloved community.
Come on, man. These things he worked for and believed in his beloved community. He's talking about his mission that he want them to take.
He took a savage beating on more than one day.
Savage beating.
And he lost that backpack on Bloody Sunday.
More orders. If you're getting chased, drop the backpack. Drop the backpack.
Nobody really knows what happened to it. Maybe someday someone will be stricken with conscience and give some of it back. But what it represented never disappeared from John Lewis's spirit. We honor that memory today because as a child he learned to walk with the wind, to march with others to save a tiny house. Because as a young man he challenged others to join him with love and dignity to hold America's house down and open the doors of America to all its people.
Immigration. Talking about immigration. You see, I don't think that America is trying to stop people, or not America, but the United States is trying to stop people from coming in. I think that there is a concerted effort to bring people into America that will create havoc or chaos. And we can't allow that. Like, if you want to live in a peaceful neighborhood, a peaceful place, you have to fight against those that is trying to destroy your sense of well-being. And sometimes we inflate or conflate two things that aren't usually, usually put together, as far as, okay, crime is bad, immigration, the wrong immigrants is bad, but all immigrants are bad. So they say, oh, you don't want immigrants here? So you're saying all immigrants are bad? Like, no, I'm saying we don't want criminal immigrants here. Just like any country wouldn't want criminal Americans there creating havoc, chaos in their country, doing the things that these gangs were doing when they come here. Duh.
We honor him because in Selma, on the third attempt, John and his comrades showed the sun.
When you go and look at Ilhan Omar's daughter's tweets or whatever, she was calling the Antifa people comrades and giving them marching orders over Twitter.
Sometimes you have to walk into
She called them comrades.
the wind along with it. as he crossed the bridge and marched into Montgomery. But no matter what, John always kept walking to reach the beloved community. He got into a lot of good trouble along the way, but let's not forget, he also developed an absolutely uncanny ability to heal troubled waters.
So he's saying if we win, we have the ability to heal troubled waters. What you see going on in the world, we can stop it. Which is a lie. They're not going to stop it. They're going to just ramp it up more because they want to control the world. That's what they want to do.
When he could have been angry and determined to cancel his adversaries, he tried to get converts instead. He thought the open hand was better than the clenched fists. He lived by the faith and promise of St. Paul, let us not grow weary in doing good.
They love pulling
For in
Bible
due season
scriptures.
we will reap if we do not lose heart. He never lost heart. He fought the good fight. He kept the faith. But we got our last letter today on the pages of the New York Times. Keep moving.
What was the last letters? The Ghislaine Maxwell declassification of the documents pertaining to the case of Jeffrey Epstein and this guy.
It is so fitting on the day of his service, he leaves us our marching orders.
Bill leaves you his marching orders in a man's funeral. This guy is a disgrace.
Keep moving. 20 years ago when I came here after the Selma March to a big dinner honoring John and Lillian and John Miles, you had a big afro. And it was really pretty. And your daddy was giving. But on that night, I was almost out of time, and people were to be present, and people were asking me, well, if you could do one more thing, what it would be, or what do you wish you had done that you didn't, and all that kind of stuff. Someone asked me that night, because I had many friends in Atlanta, and I said, if I could just do one thing, if God came to me tonight and said, okay, your time's up, you got to go home, and I'm not a genie, I'm not giving you 3 wishes. One thing, what would it be? I said, I would infect every American with whatever it was that John Lewis got as a 4-year-old kid and took through a lifetime.
So, how Hegelian works is you say what you mean, but then you add on something that alludes to you talking about something different. So he's saying, I want to infect everyone with what John Lewis was infected with. It's utter genius when you really think about it.
To keep moving and keep moving in the right direction and keep bringing other people to move and to do it without hatred in his heart, with a song, to be able to sing and dance. As John's brother Freddie said in Troy.
So yeah, man, this is who Trump is, fighting against all day, every day, is these globalist, people that don't want to see the best for this country. They don't want the best for this country. And and it's really, really dangerous for people to go against these people that want to destroy
It
America.
was much cheaper and it had much better light.
That's what they want. They want to destroy America. People don't believe it.
Well, the rebate that I'm doing cuts out the middlemen and reduces costs, and the money goes back to the people purchasing the drugs. So I have a lot of enemies out there. This may be the last time you'll see me for a while. A lot of very, very rich enemies, but they are not happy with what I'm doing. But I figure we have one chance to do it, and no other president's going to do what I do. No other president would do a favored nations, a rebate, a buy from other nations at much less cost. Nobody. And there are a lot of unhappy people, and they're very rich people, and they're very unhappy. Here's my fourth promise to American workers. Beyond our medical supply chains over the next 4 years.
So yeah, man, this is who they're fighting against. People that have deep pockets and want to destroy America. That's it, man. So we gotta keep on fighting for the truth and for the future and for the Constitution, which came from, the indigenous peoples of this land. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys watching. Oh, if you like my video, please like it. Please like it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Comment on my stuff and tell me what you think, or put information showing that you have something other than what I put. I'm always open to learn. All right, guys. Thanks. Peace.